Hey yo, if you've been following me for a while, I talked about how I'm a Gemini Cancer cusp, and we draw a reference to the moon and its direct energy that resonates with Earth. And the reason why we resonate with the moon so much, and if you watched David Icke before, kind of talked about how the moon was actually, um, it's not so much a spacecraft as it is a shuttle. And when I talk about shuttle, I'm not talking about like the space shuttles that we have here on Earth. It's more or less a portal, but a physical portal. And and it was actually kind of like a city within a globe, so to speak. So the life was inside the moon. And a lot of the craters that you actually see on the moon are from the impact that the craft took when it was in orbit, so to speak. And you would think that there would be a better word for orbit because a lot of us relate orbits to when something travels around something else. But if you look at it this way, the way that that craft was designed was to be in orbit, but it was launched out of Andromeda, and they calculated a path that the moon would be traveling on the orbit. And so when it comes down to it, it took a lot of engineering because if you know how far Andromeda is from like Earth here, it's not just like across the street. So even being off by a small calculation, Moon wouldn't have made its destination to Earth because the reason was why the Andromedans came via their shuttle at the time because that was the best technology they had back then. But now, because um, we're not gonna really talk about like the moon and how old it is in linear time, because it exceeds that time altogether. And why I say it exceeds it, because if you know how long it would take to go from Andromeda to Earth here on the physics scale, even if Moon was going at the speed of light, it would still take years to travel from Andromeda to here, to planet Earth. So, what I'm really getting at is that the craft was designed to be a community within there, so it had all the necessities for the Andromedans to make it from their galaxy to here. And 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 it didn't require any fuel because it was going on an orbit. And the only thing that they needed to engineer is when it got actually to Earth is to have enough energy to actually stop its orbit. But they were originally going to design it that way. However, they didn't need to because they engineered it that the size of the craft was the right size for when it reached its destination of Earth that would be drawn into the forces that would propel it in orbit around the Earth. Because remember, this craft was made to orbit. So they launched it from Andromeda on the correct path to inter. Uh, best way I could describe it is to intertwine its energy with Earth. So the craft was made to resonate at a certain frequency. So when it got close to Earth, it would match Earth's counterbalance. So they determined the mass of Earth, and they made the craft to be a counterbalance of that. So it wouldn't be drawn to anything but Earth because they measured the density of Earth, the mass of Earth, the velocity of Earth. It took all the calculations necessary. I'm not gonna break it down because um, the way that they calculate things there and the way we calculate things here are far different. Because our math here is inferior to their math over in Andromeda. So, anyways, when the craft reached planet Earth, it was designed to basically orbit Earth when it got into its, or I'm gonna say, G-force, because the Earth is in constant motion, and so like they calculated the force of motion that the Earth was in at that time. So when the craft reached planet Earth, it would be in its orbit, and then it would sustain itself there. Now, before the moon um, engaged with Earth, Earth was in transformation at that time. It actually just got done ending the cycle. If you've been following me for a while, I talked about the many cycles that Earth has been through. And so Earth at the time was actually ending one of their cycles it's been through. So that's what they also knew that was going to come into fruition from their observations of Earth, and plus instructions from there's galaxy coordinates that certain leaders tap into when it comes to sustaining their systems that they oversee. So it's all engineered to coordinate in harmony, and a lot of those harmonics are not really discovered by man yet. And it's not necessarily that they can't, it's just that they don't have the ways to measure it or the knowledge to measure it. And a lot of people that are on planet Earth, the only way that they can even invent things scientifically is by actually tuning in to those frequencies. So like we see all the technology that's coming out right now. A lot of those people are tapping into those frequencies where they can get information on how to engineer things so that they actually work. Because our understanding of even electronics, if you look at what you call like the inner workings of a computer, like you got the motherboard, you got the um, microchip, got you got all the workings in a computer. You got the circuit board. I think I mentioned that. But anyways, like all technology that scientists and technologists use here on planet Earth, I put it in general terms because it's a group of people working together to make these things work, anyways. So you got like techs and stuff like that. So I'm just not gonna break it down to all the people involved because you got assembly and they all play a part in making sure that things are produced. But anyways, um, so a lot of the technology that we're seeing roll out now is predating the technology that they want to incorporate here. Um, However, since Earth is a dualistic experience, they also know that once they introduce this technology, it can be corrupted, or even a virus can intercept it. Because we can't break the laws of the planets when we introduce things here. So, so technology, if you follow it, has been accelerating, and it will continue to accelerate. So, why I'm really breaking this down is because they know this is going to happen. And like all these viral outbreaks are to distract us from all the new technology that's going to roll out. And they really don't want that technology here because they can't produce it themselves. And if they actually want that technology, they can't be operating from the shadow aspect. main reason why I say that because they're not going to be able to understand the technology unless they're of the light. That's kind of how we're going to usher in more of the light energy here too. So they know that this is coming, and we've been kind of talking about this new energy coming in. A lot of people label it era, and that's just labeling time, right? And we can put a new label on anything, and it's really made to help people keep records of stuff. But I'm not even concerned about record keeping because once the experiences happen, the history of that changes all the time. It all depends on what perception they want from history. So I think you experience that even in your own experience here on Earth, how history is never ever the same. It's always changing. And they're even looking back in history now and rewriting history how it was written before because they'll have a different perception of it. And even people at the time that history was happening, they all had different perceptions of it. You can't even see it being played out now. All of us have a different perception of things, how they happen. So history is just one recording of a record of observation. Then, however, that the group collective observed things, that's how they're recorded. So I don't really pay too much attention to historical events. That's why I always encourage people to stay in the present moment. Because even in the present moment, that's where everything happens at. So even when we reflect back on the history, we're doing it in the now. Or if we're even trying to forecast the future, we're doing it in the now. And that's all that ever happens is this current moment. And our ego just likes to perceive things to be at different times because here on Earth we experience this perception of time because linear time is measured even though it doesn't exist in the first place. Because if linear time existed, it would be the same everywhere. But just for example, that here on Earth, which is not even a drop in the ocean when it comes to the universe, there's 20, I think there is, 14 different time zones. And and if time was really measurable, it'd be the same throughout the universe. And the only reason why we have the perception of time here is basically because man created a tracking device that basically enslaves us into limiting our ability to manifest. Because we're running on this program that says, like, it takes X amount of time to do X amount of things. And then it really limits us from being motivated and to even be inspired. And we need those motivations and inspirations to be able to create. So if they limit that within us, then they limit our ability to actually manifest. Because we all are magical beings. It's within us. That's part of our essence. And if you ever tap into your essence, you already feel how much power comes from there. And that's where we have to really teach people how to be empowered from within them. Instead of looking outside themselves thinking that there's something far greater than them. But if you go with the law of oneness, that means that everything is just one. But if you want to look at it from the universe experience, one, that's even a limiting factor too. But the universe is just one. It just resonates at different frequencies. Just like your body, your lungs do a certain function, your heart does a certain function, your kidneys do a certain function, your brain does several different functions. Well, all of them, for name of organs and stuff, they have a few different frequencies, but that's the same for throughout our whole body. Because every energetic field creates us, and we're multiple energetic fields to create the presence of our flesh shoots, as I like to call it, that make us have the ability to have this human experience. So if we break down the word human, that wasn't even the first word that was given to our existence here. Human was adapted by the evolution of other beings that were here before us. And but a lot of those experiences are have dissipated, and we took on similar labels here because really those other beings were classified as hominids before we even took over, or I shouldn't say take over, but we kind of did because there was a reset going on, right? So we came here to restore planet Earth, and we already discussed how planet Earth has duality to it. So I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible, but like we are alien beings, meaning that we are not originally from planet Earth. We're just here for the human experience, and that's like I was just discussing is just a label, because all of us are different energy frequencies, because we come from different expressions of energy from different experiences of expressions of energy, and they all have a frequency to it. And that's why, like, the work that we do on ourselves, we call healing, but actually, what we're doing is changing our frequency. And so, when you actually do your inner work, you're actually changing your frequencies within you. You're meant to experience those other experiences to just show you that you are a frequency, and yet you were made to experience that other frequency because so many people fear those frequencies. Because um, and I'm sure you've heard in what we label like the spiritual community about like low vibe, high vibe, and then people attach certain aspects to those frequencies, and because the frequencies just resonate, they don't need labels. We don't put labels on things in our human experience here because we want to understand them. We only want to understand them so we can feel like we're in control of them. Because when we surrender our power here to be a human, we actually mourn the power that we have surrendered to have this human experience. So, at any time when we are reminded of who we are, until we really embrace our experience here, we can actually miss our what some people can label our higher self. But all in all of it is always happening. But when we have this human experience here, we got this thing called ego. And ego just runs on a program. And that program itself is very limiting. And yet, the world is tied to that ego because they've been manipulated to focus on ego. And those that want to be in control know about ego and how it plays its role in this experience that we're in. So, once we chose to be in this experience that we're in, they know that we surrendered the majority of our power to have this experience. But our essence is still aligned with our higher self because that's a direct line to who we are. But we're not ourselves, and we're also ourselves at the same time. And but this what we're here for is just an experience. And once you get past the illusions that your ego projects, you're actually able to look past things for the way they are being projected. Then you can see past that and see things for what they are. Then once you look past that, now a lot of people think they have to go into a dream state for this. A lot of times you feel like you have to start there Because in dream state, your ego is also asleep. So then you don't have the resistance of ego to keep you on that program that keeps you from actually exploring what we label dream state. But dream state itself is actually real. And our experience here on Earth is illusionary because we're actually creating it, but we're experiencing it at the same time. And we talked about manifesting. And what is manifesting? It's basically taking many things and creating it here on Earth. And what is many things? It's all the experiences that we want to experience here. Everything that you go through here is everything you wanted to experience. And it's also made to show us that whatever we experience here can't even touch us. I mean, it affects our flesh suits, but that's part of the human experience. But even if you look at an astronaut and he goes out into space with a suit, if his suit gets hit by debris out in space, the suit can be affected. If it's if it's um if it's damaged enough, it can actually kill the astronaut because the astronaut depends on the suit. So basically, when we surrender our power to have this human experience, we took on this flesh suit to be our suit so we can have this human experience. And I talk a lot about this in coaching so people can really understand that this human experience does have limiting factors to it, but our essence doesn't. Our essence is free to explore anything it wants at any given time. That's why we're able to go into other dimensions while we're here. We can say that we're going into dream state or our imagination, but in that altered experience, we're actually tapping into the ultimate experience. And I put it in those words because everything is just an experience that we want to experience. And the only time that we limit our experience is by our perception at the time. And it all depends on how much your ego affects you in this human experience. So, anyways, I know I started off talking about the moon, but the reason why I started off with the moon because the age that we're in, the Andromedans created and stabilized Earth for the inhabitants that we are experiencing now. And it's really up to us how we want to sustain this experience and what we want to take from it. And it's not up to me to tell you what the experience is going to be because we're all part of it. But if we want to experience Earth at the highest frequency, we have to be that frequency first. Because the Earth is just going to mirror our frequency. Because I just got done talking about how everything is just energy. And then we affect the energy in this experience the most. We're the primary source of energy. We talked about how we're light beings, or star beings, or star children. I don't care about the labels, to be honest with you. There's lots of labels. But the labels are not what's important. The concept that is behind the scenes is important. But people can't even connect to the essence of the concept. Because they're trying to look for reasoning behind it. But they're trying to reason it from a human perspective. And we didn't create this experience from the human experience or human's perception. We created it from the greater experience. And I'll put it in those terms because there are no words for it. There's no words needed for it. It's just an experience. We don't go up there and just gab about our experience. We're just experiencing things. And then we can just create things when we need them. We can create our own universes at any time. He knows an infinite amount of universes already. But if something is truly infinite, it can experience itself in any way that it wants to express itself at that time. Same thing with our experience here on Earth. A lot of people label it as free will, but it goes well beyond that. It's just an experience. We're free to experience life here, as we call it, any way we want to. So it's up to you how you want to experience it. So when it comes to us being twin flames, we chose that frequency because it's the highest frequency you can have in this human experience. That's it. That's why we chose to have this experience that we're having. And then we've been called twin flames, twin souls. What it really represents is that we share our energy or our essence with our other self to have two experiences in one, because we can accomplish more that way than just in one human experience. So we decided to split ourselves up so that we can have a bigger impact on Earth. Plus, when you have sex, I know we talk about sex a lot, but when you have sex, that truly is the most heightened experience you can have here. So, in itself, it does raise the Earth's vibrations, as we call it, but vibrations itself is just another term for frequency. But to cut this short, because I'm already at 26 minutes over that, but going back to the moon, that's a craft that actually brought the Andromedans here to establish stability here on Earth. So, but there's other forms of experiences here than just the Andromedans. You can do your own research on it, even the ones that are researchable on the web. It's not even a complete listing, so to speak, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, because we're all here just for the human experience. I do have like an origin package. Jojo did make a PDF about some of the experiences. I'm sure that somebody can relate to those experiences. But even for myself, I'm not on that list. But most of my guardians, so to speak, are, well, I mean, they're not of this world, but the technology that they're at couldn't even be expressed here on Earth because we don't even have the resources to even create them. Their technology is far superior to anything here on Earth. Even like the pictures that we show throughout the community, nothing even comes close to that technology. So all these experiences that we're actually seeing coming into fruition here on Earth that are coming in as what they're going to call as UFOs because they're unidentified. They're even going to experience some crafts that they can't even see with their human eyes because it's that different frequency that their human eyes are not really trained to focus on. But to see the effects that it has with objects around them because of their frequency, right? So of course it's going to impact things around it. And they are being captivated by technology that humans now have, which is great. And we want that to happen because we really want to reestablish Earth as it was. It was meant to be experienced, and right now it's being controlled and manipulated. And if we really want to change that control and manipulation, the only thing that we could do is through the frequency of love. Because it's going to be too high of a vibration for the lower frequencies to really control and manipulate anybody. So if we just raise our vibrations to a frequency above that, then their frequencies are exposed for what they are. Then we still align with it. It doesn't even feel good. We just see it for what it is. It's all just manipulation and control. Instead of sort of free sovereign beings, we're not going to resonate with that. But if you surrender your power to it, that's your choice. That is your choice. But if you do choose that, it's just an experience. So if you want to experience that, you have the freedom to experience that. You know, even if we end up destroying Earth again, and what I mean by destroying Earth, destroying each other, well, let's reset again. It won't be the first time, it won't be the last. So what I'm relaying to you in this message too is just make the most of your experience. Live with passion. Do the things that you want to do. Experience the things you want to experience. And don't let fear hold you back. Because that's just a program. And you're much greater than a program. Well, I love you a lot. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.